Thanks for clicking on this video. I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoy the story, consider subscribing and feel free to like the video or drop a comment below. It really helps the algorithm recommend these videos to you and to others who might enjoy them too. Either way, thanks for giving it a chance, and I hope it pulls you in. I was wrong. I did not understand time at all. None of us did. Not until the countdown. It started on a Saturday morning in November. I was sitting at my kitchen table grading papers, a cup of coffee going cold beside me, rain pattering against the windows of my small house in Havenwood. It was the kind of grey, quiet morning that makes you want to stay inside and do nothing, which is exactly what I was doing, working my way through a stack of essays about the Industrial Revolution and trying not to fall asleep. My name is Owen Bradley. I'm 35 years old, single, living alone in the house I bought after my father passed away. I have lived in Havenwood my entire life, went to school here, came back after college to teach at the same high school I graduated from. It is a quiet life, a predictable life, or at least it was, until that Saturday morning. I glanced up at the clock on my wall, the old analog clock my father had given me when I moved into this house, just checking the time the way you do 100 times a day without really thinking about it. It was an absent gesture, automatic, meaningless. The clock was not showing the time. Instead of the familiar position of hour and minute hands, the face displayed numbers, digital numbers, which made no sense because it was not a digital clock. It had never been a digital clock. It had hands that moved in circles, tracking hours and minutes and seconds the way clocks have done for centuries. But now those hands were gone, replaced by glowing red digits that had no business being there, and the numbers were counting backward. 47 hours, 23 minutes, 15 seconds, 14, 13. I stared at it for a long moment, certain I was still half asleep, certain my eyes were playing tricks on me. I had been grading papers for 2 hours. Maybe I was more tired than I thought. Maybe I was hallucinating from boredom. I blinked hard and looked again. The numbers were still there, still counting down, the seconds ticking away one by one. 12, 11, 10. I reached for my phone to check the actual time, and my hand froze halfway there. My phone screen was lit up, displaying the same countdown. 47 hours, 23 minutes, 8 seconds. A chill ran through me. I picked up the phone, turned it off and on again, waited for it to reboot. The countdown remained. The same numbers, the same relentless falling. I checked my watch. The same. I walked to the kitchen and looked at the microwave clock. The same. My laptop, my tablet, the old alarm clock in my bedroom that I had not used in years but kept plugged in for reasons I could not remember. Every single device that displayed time was showing the same countdown, all synchronized, all ticking down together towards something I could not see. I stood in the middle of my living room, my heart beating too fast, my mind racing to find an explanation. A prank, maybe. Some kind of virus that had infected all my devices. A glitch in the matrix, if such a thing existed outside of movies. But how would a virus change my father's analog clock? How would a glitch put digital numbers on a face that had only ever known hands? I turned on the television, my hands shaking slightly as I fumbled with the remote. The the news was already covering it. Of course they were. This was not just happening to me. The anchor, a woman I had watched deliver the news for years, looked pale and shaken as she spoke. Her voice had that careful steadiness that journalists use when they are trying not to panic, that professional calm that starts to crack when the news is too big, too impossible, too terrifying. We are receiving reports from around the world that every clock, watch, and time-displaying device has simultaneously switched to what appears to be a synchronized countdown, she said. Digital clocks, analog clocks, even sundials and hourglasses are reportedly displaying or indicating the same countdown. Scientists and government officials are working to understand this phenomenon, but at this time, no explanation has been offered for what is happening or what the countdown might be leading to. She paused, and I saw her glance at something off-screen, her composure slipping just a fraction. When she looked back at the camera, I could see the fear in her eyes, the same fear I was feeling, the fear of something too big to understand. The current countdown stands at 47 hours, 18 minutes, and approximately 30 seconds. We urge everyone to remain calm. Stay in your homes. Avoid unnecessary travel. We will continue to provide updates as we receive them. In the corner of the screen, I could see the countdown displayed in small white numbers. 47 hours, 18 minutes, 22 seconds, 21, 20. I sat on my couch and watched the seconds fall away, one after another, each one bringing us closer to something none of us could understand. My phone rang, making me jump so hard I nearly dropped it. It was my sister Marie. "Owen, are you seeing this? Please tell me you are seeing this." "I am seeing it." "What do we do? Should we leave? Should we go somewhere? Frank wants to drive to the cabin, but I do not know if that makes any sense. I do not know if anywhere is safe. I do not know anything." She was talking too fast, her words tumbling over each other, panic bleeding through every syllable. Marie was usually the calm one, the one who held everything together. Hearing her like this made everything feel more real, more terrifying. "Marie, slow down. Take a breath." "Do not tell me to take a breath, Owen. Every clock in the world is counting down to something and nobody knows what. There are 47 hours left of something and we do not even know what it is. How am I supposed to take a breath?" I did not have an answer for her. I did not have answers for anything. "Just stay home," I said, because I had to say something, because she needed me to say something. "Stay with Frank and Lily. Keep the doors locked. I will come over later to check on you. Promise me." "I promise." After I hung up, I sat in my quiet house and watched the countdown tick away. 47 hours, 12 minutes, 43 seconds, 42, 41. I had never felt so helpless in my life. I could not stay inside. The walls of my house felt like they were closing in, the silence broken only by the soft tick of that clock on the wall. Each tick a reminder that time was passing, that the countdown was falling, that something was coming and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I drove into town, needing to see other people, needing to know I was not alone in this, even though I knew the whole world was sharing the same nightmare. Havenwood looked different that morning. The same streets I had driven 1,000 times, the same buildings I had seen every day for 35 years. But everything felt unfamiliar now. Fragile, like the town was made of paper and a strong wind could blow it all away. Like at any moment, everything could simply cease to exist. Some people were going about their business as if nothing was happening. I saw a woman walking her dog along Main Street, the same route she probably walked every morning. A man was raking leaves in his front yard, the same leaves that had been piling up all week. A teenager was skateboarding down the sidewalk, headphones in, oblivious or pretending to be. They moved with a determined normalcy, refusing to acknowledge the countdown, refusing to let it change their Saturday morning routines. I envied them their denial. I wished I could pretend too. Others had stopped pretending. I saw clusters of people standing on sidewalks, staring at their phones, their faces blank with shock or twisted with fear. A group had gathered outside the First Methodist Church, the doors thrown open despite the cold, and I could hear singing from inside, hymns rising up into the grey November sky, voices lifted in prayer, in hope, in desperation. The grocery store parking lot was overflowing with cars, people pushing carts piled high with water and canned goods and batteries, as if supplies could save them from whatever was coming. A fight had broken out near the entrance, two men shoving each other while a woman screamed at them to stop. Security guards were trying to restore order, but there was panic in their eyes too. On a street corner, a man stood holding a cardboard sign. "The end is coming," it said in thick black letters. Any other day, I would have dismissed him as one of those people who always think the end is coming, always warning about disasters that never arrive. Today, his sign felt different. Today, he might be right. I stopped at the hardware store, not because I needed anything specific, but because I needed somewhere to go, something to do besides drive in circles and watch the numbers fall. George Kemper was behind the counter, same as always. George had owned this store for 40 years, had known my father, had known me since I was a kid, coming in to buy nails for treehouse projects and light bulbs for science fair experiments. He was in his 70s now, grey-haired and slow-moving, but his eyes were still sharp, still seeing more than most people noticed. He was watching a small television he kept by the register, the same news coverage I had seen at home, the same countdown in the corner of the screen. "Owen," he said, nodding at me as I approached. "Strange day." That might be the understatement of the century, George. He smiled, just a small one, and gestured at the television. "You know, I lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis, October of '62. I was 16 years old, sat in my living room with my parents, and watched Kennedy on the television, telling us the Russians had missiles pointed at us, telling us we might all die in nuclear fire. I remember my mother crying. I remember my father trying to figure out if we should build a bomb shelter. I thought that was the most scared I would ever be. Were you this scared then?" George considered the question for a moment, his weathered hands resting on the counter. "I think I was scared differently. Back then, I was scared of bombs and radiation and the Russians. I was scared of something specific, something I could understand even if I could not stop it. This," he gestured at the countdown on the screen, "this is fear of the unknown. We do not even know what we are afraid of, just that something is coming and we have exactly 46 hours and change to wait for it. How can you be so calm? Because I learned something during that crisis, George said. I learned that panic never helps anything. The missiles did not launch. The world did not end. And all that fear I felt, all those sleepless nights, did not change a single thing about what happened. So I decided a long time ago that I would not waste my energy on panic. If something is coming, it is coming whether I panic or not. Might as well keep my head and deal with whatever arrives. I wished I could feel that way. I wanted to feel that way. But the numbers kept ticking in the corner of the screen, and I could not stop watching them fall. As I left the hardware store, I noticed a woman sitting on a bench across the street. She was staring at her phone, water running silently down her face, her body completely still, except for the occasional shudder. Something about her stillness, her quiet grief, made me cross the street and approach her. "Are you okay?" I asked, knowing it was a stupid question, knowing none of us were okay. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "How can any of us be okay?" she said. "How can anyone be okay when we know exactly how much time we have left?" "We do not know that," I said. "We do not know what happens when it reaches zero. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe it is all some kind of mistake." "Do you believe that?" I hesitated. "No." She laughed, a bitter sound that held no humor. "At least you are honest. Everyone keeps telling me to stay calm, that it will be fine, that there is probably a logical explanation. But they do not believe it any more than I do. I can see it in their eyes." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "My name is Diane. Owen. Owen. I have spent my whole life wasting time, putting things off, waiting for someday." She looked back at her phone, at the countdown still ticking. "I was going to travel someday, see Paris, see Tokyo, see all the places I had pictures of on my wall. I was going to write a book someday. I have had the first chapter in my head for 15 years. I was going to tell my mother I forgive her someday. We have not spoken in 3 years, not since my father's funeral." She shook her head slowly. "And now someday has a number attached to it. 44 hours and 37 minutes. That is how much someday I have left. And I cannot stand to look at it, but I cannot stop looking at it either." I did not know what to say, so I sat down beside her. Two strangers on a bench, watching the world count down together. We did not talk for a while. We did not need to. Sometimes, just being near another person is enough. I drove to Marie's house that afternoon. She lived on the other side of Havenwood, in a nice 2-story place she and Frank had bought when Lily was born 15 years ago. I had helped them move in, had spent countless holidays and birthdays and ordinary Sunday dinners at that house. It had always felt warm and safe, full of noise and life and the chaos that comes with raising a teenager. Today it felt different. The warmth was still there, but it was tinged with something desperate, something fragile, like everyone inside was holding on too tight, afraid that if they let go for even a moment, everything would fall apart. Marie answered the door before I could knock. She had been watching for me through the window. She looked like she had been crying, her eyes red and puffy, but she had pulled herself together. That was Marie. She always pulled herself together, no matter how hard things got. She had been doing it since we were kids, since our parents started fighting, since the world first showed her that it could be cruel. Frank was in the garage. I could hear him out there, doing something with tools, keeping his hands busy so his mind did not have to think. Lily was in her room with the door closed, probably on her phone with friends, all of them trying to make sense of something that made no sense. "I do not know what to do," Marie said as we sat in her living room. The television was on in the background, muted, the news coverage playing on an endless loop. "I keep thinking I should be doing something, preparing somehow, but I do not even know what I would be preparing for." Nobody does. The news keeps saying to remain calm. How are we supposed to remain calm? They are counting down to something and they will not even tell us what. I do not think they know what. I do not think anyone knows. Marie looked at me, and for a moment she was not my older sister, the one who had always been strong, always known what to do. She was just scared as I was, as scared as everyone on the planet. "What do you think happens?" she asked quietly, "when it hits 0? I looked at the clock on her wall, the same countdown displayed on every clock in the world. 42 hours, 17 minutes, 51 seconds. I do not know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Maybe something in between. Marie started crying then, and I held her the way she used to hold me when I was little and scared of thunderstorms, scared of the dark, scared of all the things children are scared of. I held her and let her cry and wished I could tell her everything would be okay. But I did not know if it would be. None of us did. I spent a sleepless night in my own house, watching the countdown tick away in the darkness, watching the numbers fall. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Every time I started to drift off, I jerked awake, certain that I had missed something, certain that 0 had come while I was sleeping. I woke to find the countdown at 23 hours and change. Less than a day now. Less than a day until whatever was coming. The news reported that governments around the world were in emergency sessions, that scientists were working frantically to understand the phenomenon, that theories ranged from solar flares to alien contact to divine intervention to mass hallucination. No one had answers. Everyone had opinions. The internet was flooded with speculation, with fear, with desperate attempts to make sense of the senseless. Some people had not waited to find out what 0 meant. The reports of suicides were climbing. People who had decided they would rather choose their own ending than wait for an unknown one. The thought made me sick to my stomach. All those people, so afraid of what might happen that they made something terrible happen instead. Others had gone the opposite direction. People were quitting their jobs, emptying their savings, doing all the things they had always wanted to do, but never had the courage to try. A man in California had proposed to his girlfriend of 10 years. A woman in New York had finally confronted her abusive ex. A teenager in Texas had come out to his parents. The countdown was stripping away all the reasons we usually found to wait, to hesitate, to put things off until later. There might not be a later. The countdown made that clear with every falling second. I found myself unable to stay home. I drove around Havenwood, watching my town, watching the people I had known my whole life navigate this impossible situation. I visited my parents' graves at the cemetery on the edge of town. They had been gone for years now. Dad from a heart attack when I was 28. Mum from cancer 2 years later. I stood in front of their headstones and told them what was happening, even though I knew they could not hear me. I told them I was scared. I told them I missed them. I told them I wished they were here to tell me what to do. The countdown ticked on. 21 hours, 15 minutes, 42 seconds. I drove to the high school where I had taught for over a decade. The building was empty, of course, no classes on a Sunday, but I had my keys. I walked through the quiet hallways, past the lockers and the bulletin boards and the trophy cases, my footsteps echoing in the silence. I ended up in my classroom. I sat at my desk and looked out at the empty desks where my students usually sat. 30 chairs arranged in neat rows, each one representing a young person I had tried to teach something worthwhile about the past. I thought about all the lessons I had given, all the tests I had graded, all the papers I had marked with red ink. I wondered where my students were now. I wondered if they were with people they loved. I wondered if they were scared. The clock above my door showed the countdown, just like every other clock. 19 hours, 58 minutes, 12 seconds. I had spent 12 years in this room, trying to make the past relevant, trying to show teenagers why history mattered. I always told them that understanding where we came from helps us understand where we are going. But I had never imagined where we are going might be nowhere. I had never imagined time itself might have an end date. I ran into Carl Hoffman on my way home. Carl was my neighbor, a retired engineer who had moved to Havenwood with his wife about 5 years ago. He was the analytical type, the kind of person who needed to understand how things worked, who took apart toasters and rebuilt them just to see what was inside. "Owen," he said, flagging me down as I pulled into my driveway. "Got a minute?" I did. I had nothing but minutes now, all of them counting down. "I have been thinking about this countdown," Carl said. We were standing in the space between our houses, the grey sky overhead threatening rain, trying to figure out how it is possible. And it cannot be natural. Time does not work this way. Clocks are just machines that measure something we invented. They should not be able to synchronize like this, especially across different types. Digital, analog, mechanical, solar, different technologies, different mechanisms, different principles, and yet they are all showing the same thing. So what does that mean? Carl's face was troubled. It means someone or something did this on purpose. Whoever or whatever is behind this, they wanted us to know. They wanted us to see the numbers falling. They wanted us to feel the dread. Why would anyone want that? I do not know. Maybe it is a test. Maybe it is a warning. Maybe it is just cruelty. He paused, looking up at the sky. Or maybe it is mercy. Mercy? Think about it. We all know we are going to die someday. That is the one certainty of human existence. But we do not know when. We live in denial, pretending we have forever, wasting time on things that do not matter, because we assume there will always be more time later. Carl looked at me with tired eyes. Maybe knowing is better than not knowing. Maybe having time to prepare, to say goodbye, to make peace. Maybe that is a gift rather than a curse. I thought about that for a long time after we parted ways. I was not sure I agreed, but I was not sure he was wrong either. The countdown reached 12 hours. I went to Marie's house and found the whole family gathered in the living room. No one was pretending anymore. Marie was not stress cleaning. Frank was not hiding in the garage. Lily was not locked in her room. They were all together, sitting close on the couch and the chairs, needing to be near each other. Frank ordered pizza, which felt absurd and perfect at the same time. We sat around the living room eating pizza and talking about memories, about the life we had shared, about all the moments that had brought us to this one. We talked about the vacation we took to the coast when Lily was 8, when she got stung by a jellyfish, and Frank had to carry her a mile back to the car. We talked about the Christmas when the power went out, and we cooked dinner over the fireplace, laughing at how terrible the food tasted, but eating it anyway. We talked about the time Marie and I got lost in the woods behind our childhood home and did not find our way back until after dark, our parents frantic with worry. We laughed at stories we had told 100 times. We cried at the memories that hurt too much to laugh at. We held each other and said the things we should have been saying all along, the things we always assumed we would have time to say later. Lily asked if she could call her boyfriend to say goodbye. "Of course," Marie said, her voice breaking. "Say whatever you need to say." Frank opened a bottle of wine he had been saving for a special occasion, a bottle he had been given by his father years ago. "If this is not a special occasion," he said, pouring glasses for the adults, "I do not know what is." We raised our glasses in a toast, though none of us could think of what to toast to. To life, maybe, to love, to the time we had together, however much of it remained. The countdown reached 4 hours as dawn broke over Havenwood. I had not slept. None of us had. We had talked through the night, laughed and cried and held each other, and now we sat in Marie's living room, watching the grey light of morning creep through the windows. The television showed scenes from around the world. Massive crowds gathered in Times Square, in Trafalgar Square, in the plaza of every major city on earth. People holding hands, praying, crying, waiting. Some places had erupted in violence, looting and fires, and the desperate last acts of desperate people. Other places were eerily calm, entire populations simply waiting to see what would come. I stepped outside and looked at the sky. I half expected to see something, some sign of what was coming, some indication of what the countdown was leading to. But there was nothing, just grey clouds and bare trees and the same world that had always been there. I made phone calls. There were people I needed to talk to, things I needed to say before the numbers ran out. I called my friend Tom, my best friend from college, who I had not spoken to in almost 3 years. We had drifted apart the way people do, not from any falling out, just from the slow erosion of distance and time. We talked for 20 minutes, catching up on everything we had missed, apologizing for letting so much time pass. We promised to do better if there was an after. I called Rachel, my ex-girlfriend, the woman I had dated for 4 years and never quite gotten over, even though I had been the one to end things. I told her I still loved her. I had always still loved her. I had just been too scared to say it, too scared of what it might mean too willing to wait for some future moment that might never come. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I know. I always knew. I'm sorry I never said it." "You are saying it now. That counts for something." I texted my students, the ones whose numbers I had. I told them it had been an honor to be their teacher. I told them to be brave. I told them I was proud of them, all of them, even the ones who had driven me crazy with their late assignments and their excuses and their teenage attitudes. Each call, each message was harder than the last, but also easier in a way. What was there to be afraid of anymore? Rejection, embarrassment, awkwardness. Those fears seemed so small now, so insignificant compared to the numbers ticking down in the corner of every screen. We drove to the center of town. Thousands of people had gathered in the main square, more people than I had ever seen in Havenwood at one time. They stood shoulder to shoulder, strangers pressed together, everyone facing the massive screen someone had set up to display the countdown. 3 hours, 14 minutes, 32 seconds. I saw familiar faces in the crowd. George, from the hardware store, standing with a woman who must be his wife, both of them calm and dignified. Diane, from the bench, no longer crying, holding hands with an older woman who might be her mother. Students from my classes, colleagues from the school, neighbors I had waved to for years without ever really knowing. Everyone I had ever known, and so many I had not, all of us facing the same moment, all of us waiting for the same answer. The countdown reached 10 minutes. A hush fell over the crowd. Thousands of people, and yet you could have heard a pin drop. The only sound was the soft ticking of the seconds as they fell away. I held Marie's hand on one side, Lily's on the other. Frank stood behind Marie with his arms around her shoulders. We were together. Whatever happened, we were together. I thought about my life, the choices I had made and the choices I had not, the things I was proud of and the things I regretted, the years I had spent teaching, trying to make some small difference in the world, the relationships I had let slip away because I thought there would always be time to fix them later. 5 minutes. The crowd was silent except for scattered crying, scattered prayers. Someone somewhere was singing, a hymn I vaguely recognized from childhood, and others joined in, the words spreading through the crowd like ripples in a pond. I looked up at the gray sky and wondered what was waiting for us. Heaven? Hell? Nothing? Something we had never imagined? 1 minute. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Marie squeezed my hand so tight it hurt. Lily was crying softly. Frank was whispering something, maybe a prayer, maybe just words of comfort. 30 seconds. The crowd seemed to hold its breath. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. 10 seconds. I closed my eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I braced myself for something, anything, an explosion, a flash of light, the ground opening beneath our feet, darkness sweeping over the world, the end of everything. But nothing happened. I opened my eyes, and the world was exactly as it had been. The grey sky, the bare trees, the crowd of people standing in the square. Nothing had changed. Nothing had ended. We were all still here. The countdown on the screen showed all zeros, frozen, not counting anymore. The seconds had stopped falling. Time had stopped running out. The crowd began to murmur, confusion rippling through the masses. People looked around, looked at each other, looked at the sky. They checked their phones, their watches, anything that might tell them what had happened, what it meant, what came next. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. People began to disperse, slowly at first, then faster, confused, relieved, some angry, furious, that they had been terrified for nothing, that they had said goodbyes and made confessions and emptied their hearts for no reason. I walked through the thinning crowd in a daze. Was that it? Was it over? Had it all been some kind of cosmic joke, a test, a glitch in the fabric of reality? I heard theories being thrown around as I walked. Government experiment, mass hallucination, alien prank, divine warning. No one had answers, just like before, just like always. But something had changed. I could feel it, even if I could not name it. The world felt different. Or maybe I felt different. Maybe we all did. I went back to Marie's house with the family. We sat in the living room, exhausted, emotionally drained, not sure whether to laugh or cry or scream. Frank turned on the news. The anchors were as confused as everyone else, reporting that the countdown had ended and nothing had happened. The world was still here. The clocks were showing regular time again. Life apparently was going on. Lily asked what we do now. I thought about it for a moment. Then I said, we do what we have always done. We live, we love, we make the most of whatever time we have, because that is all anyone can do. Countdown or no countdown. Marie hugged me, and for a moment I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope, small and fragile, but there. I woke up the next morning in my own bed, in my own house, in a world that had not ended. I checked the clock on my wall, and it showed the normal time. 9:23. Just numbers doing what numbers do, measuring the moments as they pass. No countdown, no frozen zeros, no sense of impending doom. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table and thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the chaos, the panic, but also the phone calls, the confessions, the connections, the way people had held hands with strangers in the square, the way enemies had made peace, the way everyone had said the things they should have been saying all along. The countdown had terrified us, but it had also freed us in a strange way. It had stripped away all the excuses we use to avoid being vulnerable, all the reasons we find to wait and hesitate and hold back. I spent the day reconnecting with the people I had reached out to during the countdown. Tom and I made real plans to meet up, setting a date, booking tickets. Rachel agreed to get coffee with me, to talk, to see if there was still something between us worth saving. I went to the hardware store and thanked George for his calm words during the crisis. He just nodded and said he was glad it had all worked out. I looked for Diane, the woman from the bench, but I could not find her. I hope she's okay. I hope she called her mother. I hope she is writing that book, seeing those places, living instead of waiting. I ran into Carl that evening, my neighbor with his theories. So, what do you think it was? He asked. The countdown. What did it mean? I do not know, I admitted. maybe no one will ever know. Does that bother you? I thought about it. Less than I expected. Maybe because I do not think the answer matters as much as what it made us do. Carl raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? The countdown made us confront time. Really confront it, in a way we never do in normal life. It made us think about what we would do if we knew the end was coming. And then we did those things. We reached out to people we loved. We said things we had been too scared to say. We came together. I shrugged. Maybe the countdown was not counting down to an event. Maybe it was counting down to a choice about how we spend whatever time we have. Carl considered this for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. That is either very wise or very naive. I am not sure which. Maybe both. That night, I sat on my porch and looked up at the stars. The sky had cleared, the clouds parting to reveal a vast expanse of light and darkness. The same sky humanity has looked up at since the beginning of time. I thought about the countdown, those 47 hours that had changed everything and changed nothing. We were still here. The world was still turning. Time was still passing, second by second, moment by moment, carrying us forward whether we wanted to go or not. I checked my watch, a normal watch showing a normal time. But I understood now what I had not understood before. Every moment is a countdown. Every second is ticking towards something. Some end we cannot see and cannot know. None of us know how much time we have. We never have. The countdown just made that truth impossible to ignore. The difference is what you do with that knowledge. I went inside and called Marie. It was late, but she answered anyway. Owen, is everything okay? Everything is fine. I just wanted to say good night and that I love you. There was a pause on the other end. Then Marie laughed softly, a warm sound, a good sound. I love you too. Get some sleep. You sound exhausted. I hung up and smiled. Time is always running out. That is the truth the countdown taught me. But it is not a reason to despair. It is a reason to live, to love, to say the things that need to be said and do the things that need to be done. Because the countdown is always ticking, and the only question is what you do with it before it hits zero.